Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mystery Rider speaking, and welcome to the show. You like my new setup? Yeah, but finally decided to do a little bit of redecorating around here. Since I've been living in this apartment for like a year now, and I really haven't done a whole lot. Yeah, just me and the boys, hanging out, minding our own business. And just saw a new movie in theaters. No big deal. Just the boys, chilling out on a Saturday night. After I got home watching Love and Monsters. Love and Monsters, you say? What's that? Well, it is a new movie that came out recently in theaters and on streaming, I might add. Yes, it's one of those weird cases, trying to basically survive in this trying times of living in quarantine life. You know. So it's been released in select theaters and on streaming at the same time. And I was lucky enough to see it in theaters while my local Regal theater is actually closed at the moment. I got to see it at the drive-in. That was fun. Always a good time at the drive-in. I have never had a bad experience at the drive-in. And I've only been there twice. Okay, so what exactly is Love and Monsters? Well, it stars Percy Jackson himself, Dylan O'Brien, living in a world of monsters. Apparently, 7 years before the events of the movie, there was this asteroid labeled Agatha 616. And the world finally came together and destroyed Agatha. But every missile we had. But in doing so, we contaminated our own planet, causing mutations in cold-blooded animals and essentially turning them into monsters. Hence the monsters in the title of Love and Monsters. Lots of monsters. I mean, heck, Dylan O'Brien told the story of he knew a kid named Todd who was eaten by a goldfish that he won at a carnival. It ate him and his cat. It ate Todd and his cat. The goldfish sprouted arms and ate the kid, Todd, and the cat. It's not a fun way to go. Isn't that right, Jason? That's not a fun way to go. That's what I thought. So, 7 years later, the surviving 5% are all living in bunkers. And our hero, Percy Jackson, aka Joel Dawson in this movie, basically has gotten in contact with his old girlfriend that he hasn't spoken to in 7 years. How did he do this? Via two-way radio. And so he decides to go on an epic journey. An 85-mile journey, 7 days on foot, through monster-infested lands to see his long-lost love. Hence the Love and Monsters title, if that wasn't evident enough. Along the way, he befriends a dog named Boy, who's basically like one of the best actors in this movie, Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy, and a sassy young 8-year-old girl who just steals the show completely. Along the way, they meet terrifying monsters and even some nice ones. Not all the monsters are bad. It's all in the eyes. According to Yondu, aka Clyde. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about the plot. I don't want to give anything away because this movie is still new. It's still fresh. It's still on streaming and in select theaters. So go out and see it because, well, look at the critical approval ratings for this movie. Look at the audience approval ratings for this movie. It has a 93% critical approval rating on RottenTomatoes.com and a 7.1 on IMDb. It earned those scores from being a good movie. It is a lighthearted, post-apocalyptic film that is both original and a bit of a homage. And by homage, I mean a homage to the 1950s B movies, such as Deadly Mantis and other such giant monster radioactive stuff that came out during that time. Godzilla, everything that basically came out in the 1950s. And done in such an original way, with stellar special effects, amazing, realistic CGI, and there were even some moments in where the practical effects just shined. Especially with that giant crab at the end. Spoilers, there's a giant crab at the end. Alright, so what did I think of this movie? I thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. The acting was superb. I think this is Dylan O'Brien's best performance to date. Why is he not in the MCU already? He would make a great action star. He's likable. He's charismatic. He makes a great narrator. I mean, heck, if Tom Holland is no longer available in the future, I would, Dylan O'Brien's every year. He would make a good Peter Parker, And, yeah. Let's not forget about the 8-year-old girl. She, again, so good. So good. The acting's good. The story's good. The action was great. The monsters were so original in their designs and had real character to them just by their overall appearance and how they moved. And it was just such a great attention to detail in terms of the art direction and the production design, creating a very immersive world that feels alive and yet so original. And yet, at the same time, feels so much like our own. Yeah, I can definitely see Donald Trump, accidentally bringing the end of the world. But this film wasn't exactly perfect either. It definitely relied a little too heavily on foreshadowing. Like, there's this one point in where Yondu gives Dylan O'Brien, aka Percy Jackson, a grenade, like, that's going to come in handy later. I just know it. And he even describes a monster that you'll know what it is when you see a fin coming out of the ground right towards you. That's going to come out later, isn't it? Yep. So yeah, the film is definitely very predictable, but not just because of an excess of foreshadowing, but also because if you're familiar with monster films, comedy films, or anything like that, and are aware of the slapstick cliches or anything like that, you're going to know a few things that are immediately going to happen. Like there's this one moment in where Dylan O'Brien finally reunites with his love, and he kisses her after, going on a drug trip, after getting somewhat bitten by a bunch of leeches, and apparently they have a hallucinogenic poison in them. Okay, poisonous leeches. Good to know. Okay, so basically he kisses her and he says, "Oh, that's great. Guess what happens next?" He falls. Predictable. So yeah. But despite that, the film is still really, really good. And I highly recommend it. Now, before I give my final score for this film, I just wanted to let you all know that yes, I understand that my rating system can be a little bit, confusing. So that's why I decided to put the whole grading system in the description below so you can understand it better. With that out of the way, I give Love and Monsters a 4.75 out of 5. It's definitely an above average movie, but because of the predictability in a lot of places, especially towards the midway point between the middle of the movie and the climax of the movie, it can be a bit predictable a lot of the time. But regardless, with great acting, good characters, good emotion, good writing, good effects, and of course, a lovable dog, this film is worth your time. Well, that's all the time that I have for today. This has been the Mystery Writer speaking, and until next time, sayonara. And Freddy says hello. Isn't that right, Freddy?